The late 19th century was a bleak time for Poland. After the partitions of the 18th century, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had ceased to exist, carved up by Prussia, Austria, and Russia. For over a century, Poland was a nation in name only, scattered across imperial borders. It was, in essence, a nation without a country. But in the minds and hearts of many Poles, the dream of independence never died. Among those who refused to accept the erasure of Poland was Józef Piłsudski, a revolutionary with the soul of a poet and the mind of a general. Over the course of his life, Piłsudski played many roles: underground socialist agitator, military strategist, head of state and authoritarian ruler. He resurrected a nation, guided it through existential peril, and left behind a complex legacy still debated today. Józef Klemens Piłsudski was born on December 5, 1867 in Żuław, near Vilnius, in what was then the Russian Empire. His family were Polish-Lithuanian nobles, szlachta, with deep roots in the traditions of the former Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Though nominally well off, their fortunes had dwindled, largely due to their involvement in the failed January uprising of 1863 against Russian rule. Piłsudski's father, Józef Wincenty Piłsudski, was a veteran of that uprising and a fierce Polish patriot. This legacy of rebellion imprinted itself deeply on young Józef. His mother, Maria Bilewicz, was devoutly Catholic and aristocratic, an influence that tempered Piłsudski's later pragmatism with a strong sense of destiny. From an early age he was immersed in literature, history, and the romantic mythos of Polish independence. At school he experienced firsthand the Russian policy of Russification. Polish language and culture were repressed, and Orthodox Christianity was promoted. Piłsudski chafed under these restrictions, becoming a stubborn and independent-minded youth. He began medical studies at Kharkiv University, but was soon expelled for participating in anti-Tsarist activities. In 1887, he was arrested for allegedly conspiring in an assassination attempt on Tsar Alexander III, though his involvement was likely peripheral. Nevertheless, he was sentenced to 5 years of internal exile in Siberia. These formative years hardened his revolutionary beliefs and taught him resilience. Upon returning from Siberia, Piłsudski entered Warsaw's underground political scene. In 1892, he joined the newly founded Polish Socialist Party, the PPS. But unlike other socialists who prioritized class struggle, Piłsudski used socialism as a means to the end of national liberation. His socialism was drenched in patriotism. In 1899, he married Maria Juszkiewicz, a fellow socialist and widow, whose intellectual companionship and shared ideals shaped his political direction. The couple worked closely in the production of underground newspapers like Robotnik, the worker, smuggled across borders in hollowed-out furniture and hidden compartments. By 1904, Piłsudski had become the military mastermind of the PPS. When the Russo-Japanese War erupted, he traveled to Tokyo to seek Japanese support for a Polish uprising, offering intelligence and sabotage in exchange for weapons. Although the Japanese politely declined large-scale support, Piłsudski returned emboldened and more radical. Piłsudski established the combat organization of the PPS, a paramilitary group that carried out assassinations, attacks on police and armed robberies to fund the cause. He believed that Poland needed a military vanguard, not mere protesters. The most notorious of these operations was the 1908 Bezdany raid, where Piłsudski and his team robbed a Russian mail train, securing 200,000 rubles, a massive sum that funded revolutionary and military activities. This was no banditry, it was targeted political violence, carried out with ideological precision. His tactics alienated the moderate wing of the PPS, leading to a split in 1906. Piłsudski retained control of the militarist faction, which increasingly distanced itself from socialism and aligned itself with national independence as the primary goal. Anticipating a global conflict, Piłsudski focused on building a Polish military force. He created legal front organizations like the Związek Strzelecki, Riflemen's Association in Austrian Galicia. These groups were ostensibly paramilitary clubs, but in truth they were the embryo of a future Polish army. With war on the horizon, Piłsudski made a controversial decision. He allied himself with the Central Powers, Austria, Hungary and Germany, believing that the collapse of the Russian Empire which occupied the largest portion of partitioned Poland, was the most realistic route to Polish independence. When World War I broke out in 1914, Piłsudski's forces, later known as the Polish Legions, entered Galicia under Austrian command. His political calculation was not ideological but strategic. His famous phrase, "I need to use the bayonet to carve out Poland on the map of Europe," sums up his thinking. Despite initial cooperation, Piłsudski's relations with the Central Powers soured. When Germany tried to impose control over Polish forces, he refused to swear an oath of allegiance to the Kaiser in 1917. This crisis of the oath led to his arrest and imprisonment at Magdeburg Fortress. Ironically, this transformed him into a national martyr. As Germany's war fortunes crumbled, they sought to curry favor with Polish nationalists. On November 10, 1918, Piłsudski was released from prison. The next day, he arrived in Warsaw to a rapturous welcome. The Regency Council handed him control of the armed forces. By November 14th, he was the undisputed leader of a reborn Poland. As Chief of State, Naczelnik Państwa, from 1918 to 1922, Piłsudski faced Herculean challenges. No constitution, no clear borders, hostile neighbors, ethnic divisions, and economic devastation. He believed Poland should expand eastward along federalist lines, reviving a multi-ethnic union akin to the old Commonwealth. In 1920, he formed an alliance with Szymon Petlura, the Ukrainian nationalist leader, to liberate Ukraine from Bolshevik control. This led to the Polish-Soviet War. After initial success, the Red Army advanced to the gates of Warsaw. Europe feared a Bolshevik breakthrough into the West. But Piłsudski, with a brilliant flanking maneuver during the Battle of Warsaw, achieved a stunning victory, later dubbed the Miracle on the Vistula. It was one of the most decisive battles of the 20th century. The war ended with the Treaty of Riga, 1921, which granted Poland significant eastern territory but disappointed federalists like Piłsudski, as Ukraine and Belarus remained divided. After Poland adopted a parliamentary constitution in 1921, Piłsudski stepped aside, frustrated by factionalism and bureaucracy. He watched with increasing bitterness as the young democracy became bogged down in petty politics. In 1926, after a series of unstable governments and a growing sense of national crisis, Piłsudski returned to politics with a military coup. The May Coup of 1926, carried out by troops loyal to him, resulted in the resignation of the government. Over 300 people were killed in the clashes. Piłsudski refused the presidency, but became Minister of Military Affairs and the real power behind the throne. Thus began the Sanacja sanitation regime, aimed at cleansing the political system of corruption and instability. During the Sanacja years, Piłsudski exercised power indirectly, using a network of loyalists and military figures. Political parties were weakened, opposition suppressed, and press freedoms curtailed. Though not a totalitarian regime, it bore strong autocratic features. Parliament remained, but Piłsudski held ultimate authority over national defense, foreign policy, and internal security. He established the BBWR, non-partisan bloc for cooperation with the government, as a pseudo-party to maintain legislative control. While civil liberties suffered, the state achieved a degree of stability and modernization. Infrastructure projects flourished, military reforms were enacted, and Poland regained international respect. Piłsudski was widely revered, though fear and censorship ensured few dared criticize him. Piłsudski remained suspicious of both Germany and the Soviet Union, viewing them as existential threats. He pursued a policy of equidistance, signing non-aggression pacts with both in the early 1930s. He distrusted Hitler from the beginning, referring to the Nazis as a gang of criminals. Still, he believed Poland needed time to rearm and modernize before confronting either power. He also urged the French to launch a preemptive war against Germany after Hitler came to power, a suggestion they dismissed. In his final years, Piłsudski suffered from liver cancer. He died on May 12, 1935, exactly 9 years after his coup, and was buried at Wawel Cathedral alongside Polish kings. His heart was interred in Vilnius, the city he considered the soul of Poland. Józef Piłsudski remains a towering figure in Polish history. To many, he is the father of the Second Republic, the man who saved Poland from oblivion and defeat. His military genius and strategic vision are widely admired. To others, he was a usurper who crushed democracy and concentrated power in his hands. His treatment of political opponents, especially during the Brest trials of 1931, left a stain on his record. Yet few question his indispensability. Without Piłsudski, Poland might not have survived the tumultuous years of 1918-1921. His life was a paradox: a socialist turned nationalist, a democrat turned dictator, a romantic idealist who wielded power with cold precision. In Józef Piłsudski, history gave Poland not merely a leader, but a symbol of resurrection. He was a one-man resistance, a master of realpolitik wrapped in patriotic poetry. He made mistakes, held grudges, and exercised power ruthlessly. But he never stopped believing in Poland. He once said, "A nation that does not respect its past has no future." Thanks to Piłsudski, Poland was not just remembered, it was reborn. And like all legends, his life defies easy judgment. He was above all a man who bent history to his will and taught his people to do the same. Thanks for watching. For more bite-sized bits of blistering history, please like and subscribe.